Time for the morning watch.
Listeners to Love 101 FM are advised that the views and opinions expressed in this program are not necessarily those of Love 101 FM.
Hello and welcome to the Morning Watch on Love 101 FM. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. A special welcome to our listeners on love101.org. And if you are overseas and on the move, US listeners can access us at 712-832-8001. And if you are in the UK, 0330-332-6541, or join us via the Love 101 FM app that can be downloaded from the Google Play Store or the Apple Store. You can also join us on Love 101 FM Facebook and YouTube Live. In the main watch, rape. Wait, I am married. And in the second watch, labor abroad. What we need to know. For our social media question we ask, taking all concerns into consideration, how prepared are you to work outside of Jamaica? Share your responses in our Facebook or YouTube Love 101 FM Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp comments and voice notes to 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll share your comments later on the program, but first here's I quote.
You can't sit down on cow back cause cow keen. Okay. You can't sit down on cow back cause cow keen. Which means we should never be ungrateful to or disdainful of those who help us.
Good morning, DJ. I am sitting here as a student in your class learning.
Good morning, Stokeley. How are you today?
I am okay, miss. I am fine, miss.
That's wonderful. How did you spend your summer holiday?
Miss, I went to Miami.
I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I went on the rides. Yes.
Lovely.
DJ, good talking to you. I hope you're doing well today.
I am doing well, thank you.
Listeners, great being with you as well. The main watch will be back after this break.
Well, if you want buy appliances for your home with the quality high and the price low, get it on a Bashco. Get it on a Bashco. Bashco. Be everything what you need. Bash quality service guaranteed and a Bashco. Bashco. Store that gives you more. Yeah, Bashco. Get furniture for your house, then linen everything for your kitchen, rugs, cups and more at Bashco. The store that gives you more. Bashco.
Rise with the sun and face the day with some Lasco instant chocolate. Pull a pack, stir it up. Hot or cold, enjoy the chocolatey goodness any time of the day and unleash instant smiles, instant happiness.
He knows my name.
Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the telephone counseling ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876-220-6474. Weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of global crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today. 876-220-6474. It's the telephone counseling ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church.
This is a reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
He knows my name.
Man and man, It's National Prostate Cancer Awareness Month, and the program designed for men, hosted by men with guests who are men, will explore the things men need to know about prostate cancer. So be sure to join host Courtney Morrison and integrative oncologist Dr. Andre Williams this Wednesday, September 7 at 5:30 p.m. inside the Mailbox as they discuss things men need to know about prostate cancer. The Mailbox is sponsored by Fosrich Company Limited, your electrical, solar, and lighting people. The Mailbox happens every Wednesday at 5:30 p.m. right here on Love 101, the family station.
The ark, make the heathen them laugh, talk. No one ever skylark.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. The law regarding sex in marriage, well, you know, it is straightforward and acceptable in most societies. Well, that is the question. Is it acceptable in most societies? That is the question. And we raise that because in a recent ruling in a Bahamian divorce case, among the things that were stated by the court is that there can be no rape in marriage. And in Jamaica, once a marriage is intact and there's no challenge or issues in relation to the marriage, there can be no rape in marriage as well. Some will argue that rape is rape regardless of whether the parties are married, meaning the man and the woman. So some will say that a woman can be raped even if the parties are married, the man and the woman. But some think the law should be changed. Should it be changed? We have as our guests today, well, so far we have on the line Shirley Richards, legal counsel, Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society. She's an attorney at law. We hope to have online shortly someone who herself, it is indicated, has been the victim of marital rape and is a survivor of the same. Good day, Shirley Richards. How are you? Shirley Richards?
Yes, are you hearing me?
Hearing you now, yes, loud and clear. Now, what does the Jamaican law say about sex in marriage?
About?
Sex in marriage. What does our law say about sex in marriage?
Well, all right, I'm just trying to bring up the Section 5 of the Sexual Offences Act. Our law is basically silent, except for the in cases where there is estrangement. The parties are separated. There's a separation agreement, proceedings of divorce or nullity have begun, and there's an injunction, and where the husband knows himself to be suffering from a sexually transmitted disease. In those cases, the law makes a provision for what is termed marital rape. Although in our thinking of some of us, just the term marital rape is an oxymoron in itself. But at the very least, just to say that there is some provision for in limited cases for there to be consideration. The law gives consideration when there has been sexual intercourse without the wife's consent. And so the law terms it marital rape. let me just say that Bahamian judge is to be commended. Unlike Jamaican law, the Bahamian law specifically said, it excluded the whole concept of sexual intercourse in marriage when it comes to the definition of rape. That's specifically excluded in the Bahamian law. So the Bahamian judge couldn't have ruled otherwise.
Very interesting. Now, as we are doing this topic, although I didn't say it in the opening, I'll make reference to it now. I recall some years ago when those, call them exceptions, that allow for rape to occur in marriage in Jamaica. In those situations you itemize, such as when there's a separation agreement, I recall at the time, as a member of the Lawyers Christian Fellowship, I can remember when the issue came up. And I certainly was in favor of marriage not being subjected to an allegation of rape being made against the husband. But of course, my role today is that of an interviewer, and I would interview anyone with any view on the topic. So sorry that so far we don't have online as yet the survivor of the, what she experienced, unfortunately. But, Shirley Richards, a question I have for you here. What would make, or what makes marriage different or exempt? Of course, I have my own personal views, but for the benefit of the listeners, what would make marriage different or exempt when it comes to rape, and why?
Let me just make it clear my personal stance and the stance of the group with which I'm attached, the coalition.
The Coalition for Healthy Society, Jamaica Coalition for Healthy Society.
Let me just say that we find the accounts of abuse within marriage to be both disgusting and distressing. The things that we hear about, particularly men are doing, ought not to be done. In fact, especially among church people, the Apostle Peter, himself a married man, just made it clear that women are to be treated, wives are to be treated with respect and understanding. Any man who does anything else is acting contrary to the principles undergirding marriage. So, what makes it different? Sex is a privilege of the married. It's not an entitlement. But within marriage, it ought not to be unreasonably withheld. I'm reading from a little article I'd done years ago. Marriage presumes a consent for sex by both parties. That is why rape in marriage, that is non-consensual sexual intercourse, is conceptually challenging. But here's the thing now. So if a wife or a husband, but most times it's the wife, who is not up to it, she should make it clear. She should make it clear that, no, darling, not tonight. She should make it clear that she's withholding consent. But sex within marriage, consent is presumed. And so the wife ought to make it clear, listen, not tonight. And where the husband overrides her will, that's abuse.
Okay.
I just say so. Some years ago, Mr. Marshall,
yes.
Some years ago, I had a case. It was from a church which would be classified as evangelical. An evangelical church called me. Well, some of the critics of the church, of Christians nowadays, would call it a fundamentalist church, called me and said, listen, they have a case of a wife who has been abused. And when they told me the scenario, it was distressing. The husband had closed all the windows, locked the doors, and just pinned down his wife on the sofa, and he was a much bigger man, you know. So right away, took up the case, went to the court, and we got an order. We got an order.
Hold that thought, Miss Richards, because we are now at a break. Listeners, don't go anywhere. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Get better coverage for yourself and your family as low as $800 a month. The time by JN Life Vest from JN Life Insurance is
$715.50.
the first sound they make is to simply let the world know they're here. And then it's our duty to help them show the world why they're here in the first place.
Give them every advantage with the Guardian Achiever, a plan that provides for their educational dreams and protects their health and life in the process. For more information, call 888-4LIFE to speak to an advisor or visit myguardiangroup.com.
Our students are important for the future Jamaica to achieve its best. And with the PATH program's new Back to School grant, more students will have a greater chance of success. This $1.6 billion grant package was created by the government of Jamaica through the Ministry of Finance and the Public Service in partnership with the Ministry of Labor and Social Security, along the belief that every child can learn and every child must. $10,000 more will be given to PATH students in primary and high school to help with preparations for the new school year. It's another way the government is committed to providing more support for a brighter future. We are future focused. Visit mlss.gov.jm for details.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are looking at the topic in the main watch, rape. Wait, I am married. Our guest online, so far at least, is Shirley Richards, attorney at law and legal counsel for the Jamaica Coalition for a Healthy Society, and still hoping to have online someone who unfortunately was a victim of what has been described as rape within a marriage. Shirley Richards, before the break, you were outlining for us a situation where you were called on to handle as legal counsel, it would appear. And a court order was obtained against the husband in relation to abuse to the wife. Am I correct?
That's right.
And just a little question here, although it's not scripted. What is the difference really between what he would have done to his wife and what a man who is not married would have done to a woman? Well, a man would have done to a woman that he's not married to. Technically, it's the same thing, but the relationship between the parties is different. So what is it about the relationship between the husband and the wife that makes it so unique that it not be called rape? I mean, I have my own views on the matter, but in interviewing you today, I'm posing that question, although not scripted.
Yes, the marital union is unique. You know, one of the things we need to be careful of, if we want to punish that type of action, one, I think the law is there in terms of protecting the wife. But, you know,
what would the wife be complaining about if the husband does that to his wife? And by the way, it could even happen the other way around. Maybe the wife knows karate or she has a firearm and she does it to the husband.
Sorry, I chuckle.
Although most times men don't say no, but it's possible. What is it about a marital union that makes it so unique that it not be called rape?
Because, as I explained already, marriage presumes the consent of sex by both parties. And because the relationship is different, the classification has to be different. The classification has to be different. The marriage is not like girlfriend, boyfriend or just people who don't know each other. Marriage presumes consent for sex by both parties. Where consent has not been given, that is where the problem comes in. So yes, the actual act, it's the same act. It's the same act, but the difference is the relationship. In that relationship, consent is presumed. Unless
I'm just thinking of another. I'm thinking of another parallel where even if you have quote unquote consensual sex with a female, a man having consensual sex with a female under 16, even though the under 16-year-old female would have consented, it is still not considered to be allowable or legally permissible. Okay, I see. So you're saying the marriage itself is what gives, does it mean it gives blanket consent that the parties can have sex with each other?
Hold on, but what needs to happen is that we're one party. I don't like the word blanket, you know. Okay, so let me read what I said again.
Sure. Yes.
Again, sex is a privilege of the marriage. It's of the married. It's not an entitlement. Within marriage, however, it ought not to be unreasonably withheld. The woman and man
you mentioned a very interesting point. I know I'm cutting into you, Shirley Richards, but you mentioned something very interesting. And I'm not asking it to be difficult. I'm asking so that people can understand. Why are you saying it's not an entitlement? Because when most Jamaican men, including in the church, get married, as far as they are concerned, they can now have legal sex. That's a term it's given. And I think in the minds of most Christian men, for example, in their minds, it's now an entitlement. Why is it not an entitlement, you're saying?
The parties are expected to navigate marriage with these guiding principles in mind. It is their privilege to have sex, but it's not an entitlement. You can't force your wife.
So you're saying that sex within marriage is a privilege?
Yeah, absolutely.
Interesting.
It's a privilege, but not an entitlement. I mean, also, one party ought not to unreasonably deny the other party, but it is not an entitlement.
Very interesting.
And so both parties have to navigate marriage with these principles in mind.
I see.
And so that is why we find the concept of rape within marriage to be conceptually challenging. But where the wife, and let's be frank, it tends to be the wife, where the wife withholds consent and the husband still, because of his greater strength, goes ahead, that is abuse. And as the Bahamian judge said, that's cruelty. In fact, if the legislators want, and if they find it necessary to do so, they could have a section in the law dealing with spousal abuse, you know, or marital. Let me be clear: marital abuse. But it's not rape, and we have to be careful that we don't pull down marriage, even as we want to deal with abuse. That we don't pull down marriage and make marriage come and be on the same level as other relationships. It is not. Marriage is to be placed in, marriage is a different type of relationship, a relationship which is to be respected and to be placed on a different level. But if there is abuse within marriage, that is to be deprecated, that is to be denounced, roundly denounced, and can be dealt with. Wives need to be much more proactive in protecting themselves. And provisions of the law are there.
You mentioned that the husband and the wife need to navigate, but navigate according to what principles and what rules or what even laws, because husband wants to have sex, wife says no, he presses her. Some men think no means yes. That's another discussion. And he presses and presses, and before you know it, the wife might find herself being abused, or acts of cruelty are meted out against her, what does she do at that point when the cruelty has taken place, Miss Richards?
Yes. Well, listen, she needs to she needs to find somebody to speak with. She needs to maybe speak with a pastor, speak with a lawyer, go to the family court. If she's really serious about this matter, and as I said, wives need to be protected of their own.
What you're saying is that she wouldn't go to the police because it's not a police matter.
It would not be a police matter unless the circumstances outlined, which I outlined before, are in place.
I see.
Unless those circumstances are in place, she needs to take action to protect herself. One of the things would be to just move out to the bedroom. You know, she needs to take action to protect herself.
And if there is any actual physical acts of violence against her, clearly she should report that to the police because
absolutely.
She may have been cut with an instrument or
something
like that would have occurred.
We have Dr. Robinson online.
Dr. Robinson, oh my, you are on, but so late, but we are happy to have you. Shirley Richards, hold those thoughts. Dr. Robinson, I don't know if you heard anything that we have said so far. You can indicate if you have.
Yes, good morning.
If you could in a minute or two, and by the way, for those persons who are listening, her name is Dr. Is it Euphemia? I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly, madam.
Correctly, sir.
Euphemia Burke Robinson. She is a survivor of what she has described, or what I gather is rape in marriage, as far as she has described it. In a minute or two, outline to us, if you will, whatever you care to share on the matter. If you want to talk about the incident, the reporting of it, or whatever circumstances, and you can indicate how you feel about the law as it currently stands.
All right, thank you for the opportunity. Can you hear me clearly?
Yes, but if you can do it in a very short shrift because we are literally out of time.
Sure. All right, so as you said, I would have experienced what I describe as rape in marriage. And the thing is that I did not report it to the police, and that I think is consistent with what I heard from your other guest. And pardon me, I am missing her name now. But the thing and the reason why it was not advanced to that level, it is because of the, and I'm using this term not advisedly, the shackles of marriage, that you subject yourself as an individual to these kind of things under the blanket of being married. And so you suffer because the thing, I think
so that I'm only intervening because of time. I think we have a minute or so left. You think the law in Jamaica should be changed to allow for rape in marriage regardless of the condition and state of the marriage?
Regardless of condition and state, because individuals invariably continue to suffer silently. And
do you have any statistics, to your knowledge? Are there any statistics on this issue of cruelty in marriage, which you are describing as rape? Because I put it that way because the law doesn't provide for rape in marriage, except in certain cases.
Right. So I understand that cruelty in marriage is used broadly, because can you imagine somebody my husband bangs my head in the door? That is cruelty.
Oh my, that's horrible.
But when it is that you are, this thing is forced upon you, where you forced sexually, and you are left now bruised, you are left feeling unclean and sordid. I think that when you get very specific, and the thing, it looks like rape in everything. It smells like rape.
But the name is different. Yes.
The name is different, and then you cannot categorize it, and you don't play upon it because you call it cruelty. And
only because of time, Dr. Burke Robinson, I want to bring in Miss Richards to ask her a very critical question. Shirley Richards, for cruelty in marriage, I'm just using the term broadly, when the man would have done something to the woman that you would categorize as rape in another situation, do you think the penalty should be the same? I believe should it be the same penalty as rape?
I don't have a problem with that. I don't have a problem. You see, let's not.
But you don't want the name to be rape.
Right. Let's not get fixated about the classification.
We have to leave it.
We provide for the punishment of the act. I don't have to be fixated on the word rape.
Yeah.
And say something. If it is that we don't call it what it is, we may downplay on the thing, and that is why it's important to name it that way. If it is that we want to correctly persecute it in a way that
I understand both positions. I have my own view, which I won't say on the program, but I understand both positions. But unfortunately, we are totally out of time, and we have to leave it there this morning. Dr. Euphemia Burke Robinson, I'm so sorry you came on so late. Shirley Richards.
I'm sorry myself.
Thank you both ladies. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
Okay, then.
Talk to Jane Bank today to find out about achieving your own sweet home in 30 days. The time by Jane Bank Mortgage is
7:31 and a half.
Rise with the sun and face the day with some Lasco instant chocolate. Pull a pack. Stir it up. Hot or cold, enjoy the chocolatey goodness any time of the day and unleash instant smiles, instant happiness.
Need to pass your CSEC CAPE exams to get that dream job or to qualify for university? Then Distinction College is the school for you. We have locations in Kingston, Spanish Town, St. Elizabeth, and Ocho Rios. Start day, evening, and Saturday classes this coming term and sit CSEC CAPE exams for January's resit or May, June. Maths, law, science, English. We have the lowest school fees. Register before the end of the month and win an entire term free. Call us at 354-8560.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's take a look now at the newspapers to see what Jamaicans and others are saying and doing. Newspapers and other news sources, and we turn firstly to Loop Jamaica News. This headline says, captured, man who threatened to kidnap girls, woman now in custody. Many persons may be familiar with a video that had been going viral of a man saying that he wanted to capture females, and persons can take a look at that in Loop News. We have the Jamaica Observer. This headline says, it's a lie. Leachin, that is Michael Leachin, says no intention to withdraw from farm project. That story by Vernon Davidson, executive editor of the Jamaica Observer. We have the Jamaica Gleaner. We have here Golding's overall ratings climb, but so does very poor ranking. That is Mull's National Party. Those and other stories in our various news sources. Of course, coming up next, we look at the feedback from our social media question, that is Facebook, YouTube, and WhatsApp, which is taking all concerns into consideration, how prepared are you to work outside of Jamaica? If you haven't done so yet, leave your responses in our Facebook or YouTube, Love 100 from Jamaica Live, and also WhatsApp your comments and voice notes too. 876-997-3125 using the hashtag The Morning Watch. We'll be right back.
Get ready for another Testimony Tuesday inside Alive 1 to 5, September 6. 2 o'clock will be time for Prayer Blast. More prayer, more power. 2:15 inside the evidence. We hear the testimony of evangelist Andrew Edwards. He'll talk about God's intervention after being held up and robbed at gunpoint by 5 gunmen. Then at 3 p.m., we go behind the pulpit with educator, wife, mother, and pastor Antoinette McLeod of the Shekels Olive Tree Church of God in Gratham, Clarendon. All this and more will come your way inside Alive 1 p.m. to 5 p.m. September 6th on the family station Love 101.
Satan has worshippers? How can this be? Do they have a Bible and disciples, meet in churches and perform wonders to behold? What are the ideological and philosophical beliefs of this group? Tuesday, September 6th on The Rock, join host Bishop Hero Steve Blair and guest Dr. Julia Valsi as they discuss the topic Satanism. That's The Rock, Tuesday, September 6th at 10 a.m. right here on the family station Love 101.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. Let's join Deidre now to see what are the responses of our listeners to the feedback question, which is, taking all concerns into consideration, how prepared are you to work outside of Jamaica? Deidre, what are the comments?
So Karine says, good morning. If it's something I have to do, then I would have to prepare myself mentally and physically. Another listener says, well, prepare and ready to go. And then we have a voice note here.
Okay.
Morning, Stokeley. I am a government worker. Sunday I went to the supermarket. $12,000 and it was less than 2 small shopping bags of items, and it wasn't expensive items that I bought. Some basic items like sugar I didn't even buy. It is really the first time that I've seriously contemplated migrating, really and truly.
Yes, you see, the inflation is another issue right now in a Deidre.
Yes, it is.
It's like runaway inflation. I mean, I'm not trying to, create an unnecessary, but it's like the inflation is pretty serious. I understand the comment from the person who just left that voice note. We move right into the second watch. Labor laws differ. Labor laws are different in different countries. So from country to country, you'll have differences in the labor laws. But you could say from a basic human rights standpoint, as a person working, you expect certain things legally to be the same everywhere when it comes to labor laws. And, notwithstanding that people complain about pay in Jamaica, we do, I think, have some pretty robust labor laws, which you don't even necessarily have in certain what they call developed countries or parts of certain developed countries. We have things like maternity leave, and these are things which you don't necessarily have in a lot of other countries, but many people don't know that. But however, people will want to leave Jamaica many times because they are seeking better employment, what they really mean is better pay and hopefully better working conditions. However, do you always get the better working conditions when you go to another country? Or maybe the pay is a little bit better. You have a little bit more freedom financially, but are the conditions always better? We have online today Carla Ann Harris Roper, attorney at law. Good morning, Carla Ann Harris Roper.
Hi, morning, Stokeley and your listeners.
Great. And of course, it was remiss of me not to mention that you are well known as someone who's very seasoned and experienced in labor law matters. In fact, you have even written on the subject to include a book.
Yes, I am the co-author of a book.
Okay.
My co-author is Dr. Natalie Cortese, a senior lecturer at the University of the West Indies Faculty of Law.
Yes. Now, quickly, because never enough time on the morning watch, what are the things we need to know before, and I say the before loudly, before we even apply for a job overseas?
Well, Stokely, I am glad that you have coached the discussion in a very general way, because I don't think I'll be in a position to speak to anything that has now been floating around in the public domain. However, we need to appreciate that there are some bits of legislation in Jamaica that is seeking to protect our nationals in respect of seeking employment outside of the shores of Jamaica. And one of the things I would say, which is not strictly anything legal, but it's asking us to do what the Bible says, to be wise as serpents and harmless as doves. Meaning to say, if something sometimes look too good to be true, maybe
Yes,
it is. It is.
yes,
And so we need to do our research, we need to do our homework, and not everything that you see advertised on Instagram or on a web page or somebody told you that you should just jump and go because maybe your circumstances are not ideal. So I can say that I spent quite a bit of time at the Ministry of Labor in another life,
yes,
and
yes,
so
yes.
I am aware that we do have some legislation that deals with that. So many people may not know that there is a bit of legislation called the Employment Agencies Regulations Act. And there is a unit within the Ministry of Labor that actually has the mandate to regulate employment agencies. So anybody who is in Jamaica that is going to be looking to recruit you, to place you as a nurse overseas, as a teacher overseas, in hotel work overseas,
Yes,
um, or even to place you in a job here in Jamaica. Legally, they ought properly to have a license under the Employment Agencies Regulation Act, and that act requires that there are many, let's call it administrative frameworks that such persons must have. So they're going to check for criminal background records to see if you're a fit and proper person to hold a license.
yes,
That you actually have an office. In my other life, I've known where deaths of persons who run employment agencies have been linked to the fact that people feel aggrieved that having paid their monies, registration fees and whatever, the persons can't be found because their offices are literally a car trunk. So they move from place to place,
that's
right?
correct. Yes,
But if it is therefore that persons wish to be offering people job as they are an intermediary, they are in touch with the persons who are offering the jobs overseas and are helping to make that transition. People from Jamaica are going all over the world. They're going to Japan to teach English. They are going to the United Arab Emirates to teach English as a foreign language. If
yes,
any of those persons are working through an agency, they are properly to have a license. And here is where I say you must be wise. If somebody is offering job placement, call the Ministry of Labor to find out if this is a registered employment agency that has authority to make these placements.
exactly. Yes. And thank you for that, Carla and Harris Roper, because I think the typical person isn't even aware that they should be doing all of these things. So listeners will benefit tremendously from what you have just said. I know we're almost upon a break already, but would you like to begin? You did already sort of start doing that, but would you like to expand then on the different kinds of foreign job work arrangements that exist out there? You mentioned a few, but are there any others you would like to touch on?
Well, certainly we have this program that many people know about, especially for students in tertiary institutions, that they would go on what I have heard popularly called the J1 program. That they would go during the summer months to work in all kinds of establishments, fast food stores, sometimes in small hotels, things of that nature, in order to try and earn enough to come back to help them to live through their next school year, get monies towards their tuition fees and so on. And those kind of programs are usually pitched to that level of persons.
1 second, Carla and Harris Roper. I think we are upon a break right now. But we don't lose your train of thought, because we really want to hear more of what you're saying there. Listeners, please stay with us. We'll be right back on the Morning Watch.
8884 Gas Pro. That's the only number you need to know. 8884 Gas Pro. Safety first, that's for sure. We feel it to right. So when you're ready to light, day or night, the blue flame burns bright. So when you time you need cooking gas, call Gas Pro and you get it fast. 8884 Gas Pro. Get attached to the one you know. Gas Pro, the gas professionals.
You're invited to listen to Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. We'll give you tips on how to make your money count, how to save, and how to grow your worth. It's all inside Dollars and Cents, brought to you by BPM Financial Limited, taking you higher. That's Dollars and Cents every Thursday at 8:16 a.m. on the family station, Love 101.
He knows my name.
Here is your opportunity to connect with someone who will listen, pray, and give guidance. It's the telephone counseling ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church. Please call 876 220-6474, weekdays between 8 a.m. and 9 p.m. and Sundays between 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. Please talk to someone if you're finding it particularly challenging to cope during this period of global crisis. Someone is waiting for your call. Please reach out today. 876-220-6474. It's the telephone counseling ministry of the Edgewater Baptist Church.
This is a reminder that somebody cares. Endorsed by Love 101.
He knows my name.
Welcome back to the Morning Watch. I'm your host, Stokeley Marshall. We are in the second watch. We're speaking to attorney at law, Carla Ann Harris Roper. And the topic we are looking at in this second watch, labor abroad, what we need to know. And Carla Ann Harris Roper, you were assisting us by outlining, as it were, the different kinds of work job arrangements that exist. You mentioned the J1 program. Are there any others you would like to mention? Not because you're advertising the programs, but to give listeners an idea as to what's out there so they can have a sense as to what is on the scene now, what is on the terrain now, and perhaps give them an idea as to what to look for, because they don't want to get scammed.
Yes. I don't say myself to be an expert in this part, but I will share what I know.
Yes.
So we touch on that J1 program. You have a number of entities that I'm aware of that seek to place nurses and teachers.
Yes.
And that is all across the world. As I've said, I know that there are persons going to the States, not so much Canada as far as I'm aware, but the United States, the UK. They actually are looking for good teachers in the UK as well. Japan, and I know most recently some I'm very much aware of the United Arab Emirates, where they are seeking to have teachers of English, so native speakers of English, to teach English to their nationals as a foreign language. So, those kind of programs I'm aware of. However, there is something that I think there's a bit of a gray area that may be a bit problematic, because if you have an entity in Jamaica seeking to place persons overseas, it is obvious that, as I said, they would need to be licensed. And there's also, I'm recalling, another bit of legislation, not very widely known, but it's there still on the books, called the Recruiting of Workers Act. It's a relatively old act. It's coming from pre-independence time, from the 1940s.
Yes.
But it's still on our books, that also asks that, there be licensing, the same kinds of requirements under the Employment Agencies Regulation Act, that there is proper security, persons are fit and proper to run these agencies, and that the persons must make provisions for the access, the health and welfare, safeguarding the health and welfare of the workers to be recruited. So, there is what happens to these entities that are operating in Jamaica. But the other aspect of it is what happens when we, especially now with the kind of freedom that is provided to us by virtue of the internet and much more ease in communicating with persons overseas. They can stay in their jurisdiction and communicate with persons here, and contract with persons here to be placed elsewhere. And in those kinds of situations, the government of Jamaica would not necessarily be able to have any kind of jurisdiction over persons who are not here in Jamaica, with Jamaican nationals that are effectively making private arrangements with these entities that are all wherever they are in the world. And the terms and conditions thereunder would not then be under any kind of regulatory provision by Jamaican authorities. The challenge that arises is that whilst the government of Jamaica is not privy to or involved in any of these arrangements with Jamaican nationals, if and when Jamaican nationals leave Jamaica and go wherever they are in the world, they remain Jamaican nationals. And the government of Jamaica has a duty to look after the welfare of its nationals.
Yes.
So let's take, for example, something that we heard in the news recently.
Yes.
People were seeking to head on to the United Arab Emirates. Some of them did not have United States visas, so couldn't go the conventional route to get to this faraway land.
Yes.
And
Yes.
found themselves trying to make their way there through, is it Panama, I think. But having got there, for whatever the reasons, the Panamanian did not think that they had the requisites for them to transit, and refused to board them. We all heard in Jamaica that the Jamaicans nationals were screaming for the country to come and help them. And the country is obliged to do that because they're nationals. But when all of these arrangements were being made, because there is no regulatory provision here for what is happening across internet, the government of Jamaica could not assist them in saying these are necessarily, the things that you should look for, or you may find a challenge with, to prepare them for such travel arrangements. So you see the issues that can arise, especially in terms of Jamaican nationals making their own arrangements, which they are free to do.
Yes.
With overseas entities that are not operating technically here.
Yes, and we have no jurisdiction over them.
Exactly.
Because they are not operating in the island.
And there we have the rub.
Yeah.
It's not new that Jamaicans have sought to to, get better opportunities. Going from Jamaicans leaving here to go to the Panama Canal to work from the early 1900s.
Yes, that's
We
true.
are
Yeah.
known. We are known for our strong work ethic, and we believe me, I've seen people do things overseas as Jamaicans that if they were here they would never do.
Yes, that phenomenon does exist, and
So
there is
we are known
yes,
for our strong work ethic. We are good, and we see us all over the world in a myriad of places, becoming school superintendents. Or our I think we have a specialness about us, that we just can't take away. But be that as it may, when we get ourselves, sometimes inadvertently, because we simply don't know. And that's the other bit that is not strictly legal that I will just plug in quickly before we have to run off.
yes.
You have to appreciate that when you go to these foreign countries, you are going into new cultures, new way of doing things.
I want to raise that
You
with you, but you have gone ahead to touch on it. Please proceed. Culture.
Yes, new cultures, new way of doing things, new legal structures. For friends who go to the UAE, if they are females, they're gonna have to cover straight down to their ankles. It's what's required.
Yes,
So, for example, if you're going there to teach and you're a female, you will not be allowed to teach boy students. You will only be allowed to teach girls.
that's correct. Yes.
Right? So another thing, therefore, that prospective Jamaican workers, they must take the time to do research on where they are going and what are the expected norms. Because a good employment agency here would give you, some sort of orientation and so on. And dependent on, the experience of the agency, they may even have persons overseas that, have gone through the program before and are there to, incubate you for your first couple of weeks until you catch your footing and so on.
That's correct. Yes.
Um, but again, with these other programs that we don't know their antecedents and so on, you're basically flying blind, By
Yes. Yes.
that's
Yes.
trust, and obey
Yes.
business. So we are known for that, and I think it would be unfair, for us not to appreciate that many a persons in this country have been able to progress on the backs of their relatives and relations that have taken this route to go and find better elsewhere. Some
Yes.
persons go, a lot of those peoples from the Windrush era, their intention was never to stay. They just want to make enough to come back and build their dream house in the country and stay.
Yes.
So, we have to appreciate that there are myriad of things. And you notice I have steered very clear of the seasonal farm worker program that is run by the government of Jamaica,
I
because there is
was
a
going to mention
structure.
it. Yes, but go ahead.
There is a structure that exists. It has been there from World War II. That's when we started going there to help with these things, right? And I have relatives that have gone on that program and have done so much, put their children through university, does a lot of things. And also the Jamaica, the Central Labor Organization with the liaison officers, there is a structure that exists. Now, I am not going to go down into any kind of discussion about whether or not the liaison services is being able to do what it can do
But there's
and all of
something I
that.
want to ask you before you do go this morning, because never enough time in the morning watch concerning the farm work program. Only one thing. It would appear as if the level to which some persons may have a complaint can depend on who their employer is in the relevant country they go to do the farm work program. Is there any credence to that? Because it seems as if some workers go and they appear to have a wonderful experience and others don't. Any comments before we wrap today?
Yeah, well, I would say you're absolutely correct. You have some people who over the years have, forged a wonderful relationship with their various workers, They have come here. I have known of persons who have gone on the program, so much so that having gone for the many years, their children come and join them at the same farm that they were at.
Interesting.
Yes,
Interesting.
I've seen that happen, even in my own family, if I'm going to
Interesting.
disclose.
Interesting.
So, you know, it is, I think your assessment is correct in terms of the nature of the relationship that you'll find may vary
So
from
the
farm to farm.
experiences obviously differ. And, you know, the question is, to what extent does the government of Jamaica get involved? That probably is something we can't delve into today. But I
No,
want to
certainly
thank
not.
you. I want to thank you, Carla and Harris Roper, for being with us as a guest. You've shared a lot with us today, and we do appreciate it. I want to thank you for your time and for your thoughts. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
And thank you, listeners, for being with us. Join us again tomorrow as we look at other topical and controversial issues. And of course, visit the Love 101 FM YouTube channel and Facebook page for this and all other Love 101 FM programs. Listen to The Morning Watch on our Love 101 app and download it today and stay connected to us, the family station, the #1 gospel station in Jamaica. This has been The Morning Watch. Thanks to producer Kathy Gale and our guests. I am Stokeley Marshall, hanging back love in the morning with Deidre Parchment.
The NHF is here for you.